Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tap Shibai. I'm one of the research analysts at Jeffrey Chase Trust. I come from a small rustic town in Zimbabwe, so of course it makes sense for me to cover US urbanization. So I spent a lot of my time researching US urbanization to understand the trends occurring and their impact. According to the Census Bureau, 80% of the US population lives in urban areas. The US is the most urbanized country in the world, which is surprising when you think of the vast stretches of American countryside. But the numbers don't really tell the story. 50 years ago, Rockville, Maryland was an exurb. 25 years ago, it became a suburb. And now, it's an urbanized suburb. Suburbia is urbanizing, becoming denser and more city-like. The US is the only country in the world with a significant suburban infrastructure. Today, suburbia accounts for 60% of urban America. Urban areas' economic contribution represent the vast majority of the country's economy. As the city grows, it benefits from economies of scale, enhancing productivity, and the network effect of proximity of people and firms accelerates all kinds of economic activity. This is what is known as the clustering effect. According to the World Bank, 54% of the global population lives in urban areas today, and this trend is expected to continue. The number of people living in cities is expected to grow by 1.5 times, adding 2 billion more urban residents by 2045. With more than 80% of the global GDP generated in cities, urbanization will contribute to sustainable growth by increasing productivity, allowing innovations and new ideas to emerge. So given this backdrop, here's an overview of the US landscape. For the first time in 100 years, there are more people moving into the cities than into the suburbs. Cities are enticing the young people with better lifestyle and career options. People and talent are clustering in and around cities, and that is attracting more companies and more investment. This is generating more and more economic activity and turning these urban and near-urban areas into vibrant locales with more services and amenities. Suburbs are starting to make changes to city planning to mimic urban living. The concept of livable, walkable, and workable is creating urban villages clustered around metropolitan areas. And over time, more and more of this centered around transportation hubs are extending urbanization further and further out. One reason this is happening is due to demographics. Millennials are delaying marriage and having smaller families. This has led to a decline in home ownership. With fewer people per household, there's less need for big houses. As a result, rentership has increased. People are renting more one-bedroom units in larger buildings. With more and higher vertical living, the number of people per square mile is increasing at the same time that the number of people per housing unit is decreasing. Today, a first-time home buyer rents for 6 years before buying, up from 2.6 years in the early 1970s. We believe millennials are making an intentional choice. They're choosing a lifestyle. In the 50s and 60s, racial fears and decaying cities prompted population flight to the suburbs for a chance to make the American dream a reality. Beginning in the 80s, people started to migrate inwards as cities deindustrialized. Cities became cleaner, safer, and people wanted to shorten their commute times. Today, the young and educated are staying in cities longer. Others are moving back, drawn by better jobs, higher wages, and baby boomers are choosing an urban lifestyle for retirement. Migration to suburbia has not stopped, but it's starting to slow. Net migration is still urbanizing for two reasons. Younger millennials are still moving inward, and former suburbs are urbanizing. The real losers in terms of migration patterns are the rural areas. Population growth in rural areas continues to decelerate as people live in search of greener pastures, or less greener pastures in this case. Some experts are calling for a reversal of the urbanization trend. People expect millennials to follow their boomer grandparents who settled in suburbs to raise families. Our view is that there will be some millennial migration to suburbia, but a relatively smaller percentage will move out, and the millennials that do leave will want to recreate their urban experience. Urbanization is not exclusive to cities, because in essence, it's a lifestyle, and lifestyles do travel. So as people move, suburban will become urban. We think urbanization trends are worth studying because they're spreading, sustainable, and they're an engine of economic growth. As thematic investors, we study demographics. David Foote, a famous Canadian demographer, stated that demographics explain 70% of everything. However, there's that other 30%. Demographics are not always destiny. We believe there's structural changes that are making urban living attractive. More importantly, some of these changes are irreversible, at least in the medium term. Cities are becoming safer again. In the 1980s, New York City reported an annual average of over 2,000 violent crimes per 100,000 of population. Today, that number has dropped to 600. Safety improves quality of life. Everyone wants to live in a crime tape and siren-free neighborhood. Cities and some denser suburbs are also actively working to improve their walkability as it becomes more desirable and valued. Walkability measures the pedestrian friendliness of a city. It has health, environmental, and economic components. Cities are increasing walking routes, bringing amenities in closer proximity to where people live and walk to create complete and compact live, work, play environments. The commercialization and increase of bike systems and bike trails is part and parcel of this emphasis on healthy transportation options. From an investment perspective, this trend is even more powerful because the people moving into urban areas are better educated and wealthier. From the highlighted red circles, you can see that higher incomes and educations are concentrating in city centers. So wealthier people are choosing to live in more densely populated areas, and their incomes are increasing at a faster rate than the national average. Two examples of business models enabled by density are Amazon's same-day service and Instacart's one-hour grocery delivery. This slide shows that the availability of immediate or on-demand delivery services increases with population density. On-demand businesses are more efficient in urban areas because density and higher incomes make the services scalable and economically viable.